a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 2 hours of live stream writing accountability, followed by a share what you did wrap up chat. So for anyone who's new, the way this works is that I'm going to get writing done for 2 hours and I'm going to screen share during that time. You are free to keep me in the background while I do what I'm going to do. And something went slightly wrong yesterday. What happened with yesterday's video? All right, I'm gonna have to figure that out another time. And also there are two videos yesterday. Is that right? Sorry. Today is day 78. All right. Here's all these goods, and there's all the tabs. Good. All right. So as you can see, I work in tabs, and you can follow along, reading whatever I happen to be working on as I work on it, or you can, let's double check that I copied that. Or you can just keep me in the background as white noise, as though we were in a digital shared workspace. So I'm gonna get to work, and today one of my main projects, I'm gonna be writing some music. So I do apologize if that disrupts you. Feel free to turn down the volume when we get to that bit. Feel free to let me know in the chat what it is you're working on and any progress that you're making. As you can see, I'm working in tabs here, which means I'm not going to be able to see the chat rooms while I'm working, and that is intentional, both because of the limitations of my technology and because I have obsessive compulsive disorder. And it's just very distracting to have a chat window open when I'm trying to get writing done. So I do respond to every comment made on both YouTube and Twitch at 11 o'clock. Till then, I'm gonna do what I need doing. Feel free to read along or do what you need doing. I was using the Evernote app yesterday. That's probably what it was. It's always when Evernote's around. Come on. Alrighty then. telling you to do things if you're not going to actually let me do it. So this goes up. What is going on? What is my keyboard doing? Shit. What did I... Oh, no. What are you doing, keyboard? Cool, cool. This is from yesterday's when I decided that I didn't want to write a post until I knew what was going on with the other stories. What is going on with those? I added that to a publication, so I'm guessing that it wasn't accepted for publication. Cool, cool. No worries. All right, it is 9:36. I'm actually going to make myself another cup of tea. And so you know, in case you are at all new to how I live stream my morning writing, is that I live stream the writing for 2 hours straight, just working on the 2 hours of writing. And I work in tabs, as you can see, which includes having the Twitch and YouTube in separate windows. So if there's anything you want to share about your writing process or questions you have about the work, anything about your progress, anything about my progress, feel free to leave those in the chat. I will respond to every item in the chat at the end of the 2 hours, which will be at 11 a.m. And if you're reading along, this is potentially going to be more entertaining for you, because I'm about to start singing to myself quite a bit, because I'm gonna spend the rest of the time probably working on this Carol of the Red Shoes, because that's what I do sometimes, is I write poetry. So this is, and I'll probably actually explain that in more detail in the wrap-up discussion. But again, these 2 hours, writing happens today. This writing includes singing to myself. So if you're watching along, this will be slightly more entertaining for you. And if you were planning on just having me in the background as white noise for your own working, like a digital shared workspace, feel free to turn down the volume, because I used to do theater things and I'm very good at projecting, you know. So there's that. I'm going to get started on a cup of tea, and I think actually I'm going to get myself set up to work on the Carol of the Red Shoes as with different lyrics and a different melody, because what I was thinking before is just too mellow. It's too mellow. I want it to be more, I want it to be a little more reminiscent of those. I went to Catholic school. I should preface what I'm about to try to describe to you with the fact that I was in Catholic school, and, you know, that meant we had mass at school. Either your class would go to the school chapel and have a special mass and practice participating in the mass as, you know, liturgical ministers, which means you're the people reading from the Bible during the mass. So there was class mass in the school chapel, or they would pull out all the folding chairs in the school auditorium, well, gymatorium, I should say, and we would have an all-school mass, which was usually for holy days of obligation, like Ash Wednesday. Just get everybody in there, get the ashes on the forehead, good to go. But there were certain songs that we sang in the class mass and all-school mass that we didn't sing in the local parish, even though it was the same church, same priest, you know. And there were certain songs that we used to sing, and there was one in particular that I always had, like, there were just some catchy church songs, you know. And I'm not talking about those really modern, like, youth ministry songs that people like sing so passionately, but if you're not Christian, you're just listening to the song, you're thinking, this is not well written. These lyrics are terrible. You're just saying Jesus' name over and over again as though that is the saving grace of this song. And you know what? It's not, because you're just completely putting up this wall between you and non-Christians, which is a major issue with many works that teach a message, right? If you haven't framed that message in a universal way, or if you haven't, or not so much universal, but if you haven't structured the delivery of that message in a quality crafted way, then anybody who's not already part of your audience isn't going to be interested in listening. So a lot of people think, oh, we get so many people interested in youth ministry from the music. It's like, not people who weren't already Christian. People who were already Christian get involved in youth ministry because they're trying to improve the crap that they have to listen to. At least that's why I did it. / do it. Anyway, there were certain songs from my youth that, were not the best written songs, but they were catchy. There was one that just keeps popping into my head after I stopped working on this yesterday was, and these are songs from like the 60s or the 70s, I love this song. It's so... Enter in the wilderness, the Lord is coming. In the desert, make the highway straight. Every valley shall be lifted up before him, every mountain level at his feet. Christ comes, run out to meet him. Christ comes, all of us meet him. Christ comes, hope of the nations. Yes, the King is on his way. So enter in the wilderness, the Lord is coming. And the thing is, I don't remember all the words, and because I don't remember all the words, it becomes this song that never ends, but it's still really catchy. It's still really well done, in my opinion. So even if you're not Christian, like, you can get behind singing those kinds of songs because they're fun to sing. And I want there to be something fun and just really momentous, as in momentum, right? Just having that carriage of energy in this song that I'm writing for the Red Shoes, which I'm writing because on the 30th, an article will be published on my site, The Golden Goose Eggs, breaking down why I think Hans Christian Andersen was intentionally writing about alcoholism and addiction, with particular consideration of alcoholism, with his story, The Red Shoes. But those weren't words that they would have used back then, and also it was, the style back then, that when you were addressing something of importance, but that was itself unseemly, you had to come at it at a slant. You couldn't speak of it directly. So he makes all these little nuanced gestures, and so I'm expanding on that in order, and the structuring of the story, in order to show that that's what I think he was writing about. And also, it was 25 years into the temperance movement, so the idea of sponsors and addicts working together on their addiction and to not engage in those destructive activities anymore that result from their addiction, that, it all comes together. And I think he was intentionally writing about addiction. I don't think he was writing about the problems of, I don't think he was espousing conformity over creativity, especially his being such a creative person and all. So yeah, that's what that article is about. But I write articles for thegoldengooseggs.com. I schedule them to be published every 20 days. And 10 days after each article, I have recently begun creating booms or special bonuses that help to round out what was going on in that article a little more. And that article is more of a literary analysis. So for this boon, I just wanted to do something literary and entertaining and just sort of having fun was what this boon was going to be. So in the story, the executioner that the girl in the red shoes goes to and asks to cut off her feet, he teaches her the hymn that the penitent sings, or the song that the penitent sings. So he cuts off her feet, gives her wooden feet and crutches. So he helps her to make a clean break from her addiction, and then gives her tools for moving forward, which includes the wooden feet and the crutches and the hymn. Something to say to herself, something to save her soul, because the temperance movement was a very Christian movement. So I wanted to write a hymn, but then the hymn became more, I wanted to write that psalm hymn, and now it's developed more into a carol, and I want it to have that energy. I want it to feel I want it to have that bounce. I want it to be fun, even as it talks about something difficult. So then the structure of this song has been, the constraints, I should say, the 54 lines, split into 3 sections, with each section being split into 3 stanza, with each stanza having 6 lines. And then those 6 lines get 5 syllables each. So that's the size and approximate shape of each line. And that is because I realized that if I wanted to write a poem about the red shoes, that would constitute crossover with another project I have, which I'll pull up here and show you. So I have many books here on Inkshares that you can check out. 31 Days of Narratemes is one. Seconds is another. So Seconds, Volume 1, a line of fairy tale verse for every second till the stroke of midnight. So what that is a line of verse for every second in a 12-hour period, which comes to, it's either 86,400 or 43,200. So every second, 60 seconds and 60 minutes, 43,200, 12-hour period. Aha, knew it. So, and then it's structured with these equations here. This is the equation for how many for finding every crossing, this is the equation for finding when each hour the second hand crosses the minute hand. So you put in what minute we're talking about, and then this equation will get you the second. And then here we have every time the minute hand crosses the hour hand. So these equations are the end lines of each poem. This one here, the 11 times that the minute hand crosses the hour hand over 12 hours, that is the end line for each volume. So this is going to be an 11-volume poetry collection. And then you have poems that are ending here when the second hand crosses the minute hand. And then you have this. Oh no, that shouldn't be an equal sign in there. that should be 60H plus M times 60 divided by 719. Shouldn't it? It should. It should be. And that, well, anyway. Yeah. Yeah, that should be a plus sign in there. I'm going to go ahead and change that. So that's every time that the second hand crosses the minute hand in a 12-hour period. So the second hand crosses the minute hand 59 times every hour, which comes out to 708 times over the course of 12 hours. And then the second hand crosses the hour hand 719 times. So, that equation is nowhere else on the internet. These two equations, this one and this one, you can find those elsewhere. This one, you cannot. I actually, did I explain it here? No, I did not. I just say that these are hard-won answers. Oh yeah, hard-won answers I figured out back in the day I spent in bed and in my gym jams. Even though it was way too warm for gym jams and I needed a shower and the too warm gym jams were not helping. Yeah, it was a very warm day and I was wearing very warm PJs and my OCD would not let me leave bed until I had figured out that mathematical equation. And that was how I found the end lines for each poem. Each poem I then base on or take inspiration from another fairy tale. So the first 210 poems, which starts volume 1 and then goes into volume 2, is story by story taken from Grimm's fairy tales. And then after that, I go story by story through complete works of Hans Christian Andersen. So I worked out yesterday which particular poem was going to be the red shoes in volume 2, because with these crossings of the hands, what happens is that you get a lot of variety in how long a poem is, whether it's it can be anywhere from 1 line of verse to 60 lines of verse. And so this one came out to 54 lines, which I split 3, 3, 6. 3 sections of 3 stanzas each with 3 sections of 3 stanzas each. So here are your stanzas. And then within those stanzas, 6 lines. So that's what I'm working on in here, are the 6 lines for each stanza for this first section. And these sections, acceptance, courage, wisdom, are taken from the Serenity Prayer, commonly used by AA. And then these stanzas are inspired by Clarissa Pinkola Estes' analysis of the Red Shoes archetypal story in her book Women Who Run with the Wolves. So lots of layers to the planning and the writing and the crafting, and me just talking to myself trying to figure out how am I going to write an upbeat song about the red shoes. Alright, the 5 syllables to a line, Rose. 5 syllables to a line, starting with the handmade red shoes. Acceptance. Accept the things that cannot change. What cannot change? Our nature, our past. Our nature, our past. How we live with ourselves, that can change. So this comes to handmade shoes are about our nature, which is good and productive but has darker elements. Our circumstances. So that would be more in line with the fact of whether or not a person is addiction. And then our mistakes. Okay. Accept your nature, accept certain circumstances, and mistakes. Past circumstances, past mistakes. It's probably better there because you can enter into different circumstances, enter into different contexts in order to better facilitate healthy decision making. Okay. Yes. Nature, the handmade red shoes. and cut the cloth and stitch it all together. Cut the cloth and stitch the cloth. Find the cloth and stitch the cloth down. Find the cloth and cut the cloth and cut it all together. Stitch it all together. Find the cloth and cut the cloth and stitch it all together. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth and stitch it all together. You must find the cloth, stitch the cloth, stitch it all together. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth, stitch it all together. With your own two hands, understand. Or else do not bother. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth and stitch it all together. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth and stitch it all together. With your own two hands, understand. Your own two hands. Or else do not bother. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth and stitch it all together with your own. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth and stitch it all together with your own two hands. Understand, or else with your own two hands, understand, or else you'll find bother, or else you'll find still do not bother, or else you must find the cloth, cut the cloth and stitch it all together with your own two hands, understand, or else there'll be bother, or else there'll be bother, or else you'll find, or else there'll be, or else there will be bother. dictionary, do not. I don't know. What the hell is with that? That is the most god-awful ad you've ever shown on the bottom of the screen. Dictionary. Jesus Christ. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth, and stitch it all together with your own two hands, understand? Or else why even bother? Why even bother the shoes that you see? You must find the cloth, cut the cloth, and stitch it all together with your own two hands, understand? Or else do not bother. Or else why even bother? You must find the cloth, cut the cloth, and stitch it all together with your own two hands, understand? Or else end in a dither, or else end in a dither. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth, and stitch it all together with your own two hands, understand? Or else end in a dither, end in a dither. In a dither, or else end in a dither. Once taken in, once taken in, it's so hard to leave. It's more warning than accepting. This is fine. It's a framework just to get the grease going, just to grease the wheels. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth, and stitch it all together with your own hands, understand? Or else end in a dither, or else end in a dither. If you're taken in, once taken in, the cage, once taken in, once taken in, my gilded cage. Once taken in by a gilded cage. You have escaped from age to age, once taken in by a gilded cage. You have escaped from age to age. You have escaped from age to age, once taken in by a gilded cage. Must find the cloth, cut the cloth, and stitch it all together. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth, stitch it all together with your own two hands. Understand, or I'll send in a dither. You have escaped from age to age, once taken in by a gilded cage. You have escaped from age to age. Once they have entered you have escaped from age to age, once they have entered. You have escaped from age to age. Once you have entered that gilded cage, once you have entered that gilded cage, you'll not be free from your own heart's rage. You'll never be free. You'll never be free from your own heart's rage. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth, and stitch it all together with your own two hands. Understand, or I'll send in a dither. Once you have entered that gilded cage, you'll never be free. You'll never be free from. You'll never be free from your own heart's rage. You will never be free Once you have entered that gilded cage, you will never be free from your own heart's rage. Trust in your hands. Trust your own hands. Trust in your hands that you not need. No. See, it's gone. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth, and stitch it all together with your own two hands. Understand, or else send in a dither. Once you have entered that gilded cage, you will never be free from your own heart's rage. Once you have entered that gilded cage, you'll never be free. You'll never be free of your own. Go back to how it was. You'll never be free. You'll be free from your own rage. Trust in your hands. That you'll not need. Nope, the math is still off. You must find the cloth, cut the cloth, and stitch it all together with your own two hands. Understand, or else send in a dither. Once you have entered that gilded cage, you'll never be free from your own rage. You'll never be free from your own rage. Okay. Because of how few syllables it are, the stanzas could be extended musical expressions for 3 verses. Help me to accept the things I cannot change. Accept the things you cannot change. There you go, Rose. Accept the things you cannot change. You cannot change your nature. You cannot change your nature. These hands can harm These hands can heal, these hands have worked, these hands have hurt. One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. Except the things you cannot change. You cannot change your nature. You cannot change your nature. You cannot change who you are. Who you are. I am what I do. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we do. There's got to be a more upbeat. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. That's a better start. It's a much better start. All right. We are what we do. We are what we've done. There is no distance that we could ever run. There is no distance that we could ever run. There is no difference that could. There is no difference. We are what we do, we are what we've done. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every decision and every mistake, every decision and every mistake. Every small kindness and every mistake. Every small kindness and every misstep. Every small kindness and every misstep. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every mistake. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every mistake. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every mistake. Each of us greater. Each of us greater than all of our parts. We are what we do, we are what we've done. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every mistake. Each of us greater. Each of us greater. No more our faults. We are what we do, we are what we've done. we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep. Don't skip to the end. Don't skip to the end. That's what your brain is doing right now. That's what's throwing you off. Don't skip to the end, Rose. Nature. A person's nature. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep. All of our thoughts and all of our words. Each thought we have and each word we speak. Each word, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep. Each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do, we are what we've done. We are... I missed the melody somewhere. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. Every small kindness, every small word. Small kindness and every small kindness and every misstep. Every small kindness and every misstep. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep. Each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. What we do, we are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep. Each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do and we are what we've done. We are what we do and we are what we've done. We are what we do and we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep. Each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do and we are what we've done. Alright, so I'm just gonna have to rewatch the video to figure out where the hell the melody went. Well, I'll just figure it out by the end of the song while I work through. We are what we do and we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every small word. And every misstep. Each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do and we are what we've done. It is what it is. It is what it was. It is what it is. It is what it was. What it is. What it is. It was what it was. It is what it is. It was what it was. Everyone meaning. Every well meaning. Each well meaning gift. Each well meaning gift. Each well meaning hit. It is what it is, it was what it was. What it is, it was what it was. Just red shoes. The track. Each rolling hit. what it was. Every leaf followed, and every hoop leaped, and every hoop leapt. Each act of blindness, each well-meaning trapped. It is what it is, and it was what it was. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. This is the melody I'm sticking with. Now, I'll probably go to sleep, and tomorrow it'll be a whole other melody, but these words, this wording is, it's going, it's happening. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do and we are what we've done. It is what it is, it was what it was. Every lead followed and every hoop leapt. Each act of blindness, each well-meaning trap. It is what it is, and it was what it was. Your life is your own. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. Your life is your own, and my life is... Your life is your own, and my life is mine. It's getting very sea shanty-ish. No, it's not a sea shanty. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep. Each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do and we are what we've done. It is what it is, it was what it was. Every lead followed and every hoop leapt. Each act of blindness, each well-meaning trap. It is what it is, it was what it was. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. Come on! It's okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to rush you. I want it to be upbeat. But it's also it's a saddish kind of a tale. It should have a middling tempo, at the very least. Actually, this makes more sense as mistakes, and this, because the dance macabre is that everybody dies. That's what the dance macabre is. We are what we do. We are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do. We are what we've done. It is what it is. It was what it was. Every lead followed and every hoop leapt. Each act of blindness, each well-meaning trap. It is what it is, and it was what it was. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. We are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do and we are what we've done. It is what it is, it was what it was. Every lead followed and every hoop leapt. Each act of blindness, each well-meaning trap. It is what it is, it was what it was. Your life is your own and my life is mine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your life is your own and my life is mine. Okay, so that final melody that I got going on there, that I am liking more for this song. I think I just need to keep drumming to myself as I work on it in order to, like, have that be the dance of it. And then just get the lyrics in there and let them be melodic. Okay, so, hey, there we go. There's some people in the chat today. It is now 11 o'clock, which means it's time for me to respond to people. Hi there. I'm Roaster Music. I'm your live stream writing accountability partner. So here at the 2-hour mark is when the wrap-up chat happens. The 2 hours that we do every day, you're able to read along with me as I get work going. You can read along with me, or you can have me in the background as white noise for whatever you're working on, like a digital shared workspace. Turning the volume down the last day or two, today, maybe the next couple of days for a good portion of it is good if you want me in the background, because I'll be singing to myself. So the way the wrap-up chat works is I briefly summarize what I got done in case you weren't reading along while I was doing it. And then I respond to every comment left on both YouTube and Twitch. And as you saw when I was flipping through the tabs before, there were some comments made. The reason I don't respond to comments as I'm writing is because my technology is limited given the age of my computer and not wanting to overburden it, especially because that actually disrupts the live stream and causes it just cuts out the video and That happened yesterday from just pulling up the Evernote app. So having too many windows open, too many apps open affects my computer's ability to stream. And then the second reason I don't respond to comments till the end of the video, which is now, is because I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and it's very disruptive to my creative process to have that live chat going while I'm trying to write. I realize that because I don't have many people following me at the top, right, as of right now, that it's not a hugely disruptive thing, but I want to set the precedent now that the live chat happens at the end. That way, as I do build an audience on YouTube and or Twitch, that the chat doesn't become overwhelming over time, and then I'm trying to, you know what, we're going to change things up, and then I completely throw off anyone who is following me. So that's why that is the setup here. So briefly summarizing what I did, today I posted the Rescue Narrateme on Inkshares. That's for my guided journal, for my project 31 Days of Narratemes, a guided journal for questing the crap out of your daily life, which is the framework I designed based off of Vladimir Prope's morphology of the folk tale in order to practice fairy tale principles in my daily living and get things done. 31 Days of Narratemes, my first real solid quest through it, has been actually to put a huge dent in healing my hoarding compulsion as a person with OCD. So I'm real proud of that. So I shared the lesson on Rescue today on Inkshares. Then I shared the Inkshares link in the Facebook group bit.ly/the golden goose eggs, with capital T, the, capital G, golden, capital G, goose, capital E, eggs. Then I buffered Narratemes. I went on Buffer and I made sure that those Narratemes are going to be posting on the social media where I'm not currently as proactive. At the end of this 100 days of morning writing, I am going to reevaluate how I interact with social media and how I post things for future projects, because the way the buffering's working now, I'm not super into it. It's super easy, but I'm not super into it. So I want to be better about that. Then I went into 100 Days of Narratemes, which is the document I have where I track all the different things that I post in relation to 31 Days of Narratemes, a guided journal for questing the crap out of your daily life. And so I edited the solution lesson. I pre-populated the reader update that will share the link to that Inkshares lesson, plus the 3 worksheets that go along with it to anyone who is following that project on Inkshares. Then I wrote the journaling prompt on fairy tale living that will relate to the lesson on solution, plus I scheduled that journaling prompt to go out in the Facebook group. And then I spent the rest of the time from 9:36 on talking about and working on a song inspired by The Red Shoes, which I believe Hans Christian Andersen wrote specifically in response to the issue of alcohol addiction, with particular reference to alcoholism, because the temperance movement was about 25 years at the time that the story was written, and a lot of people were starting to write short stories, even for children, that had slant references to alcoholism, which they didn't have that word for it then. It was an unseemly vice that was just referred to that was really only referred to as being like one of the seven deadly sins. You would talk about it in terms of gluttony and pride, most especially, and so they did not have the word addiction for it at that time. Really, they definitely didn't have the word alcoholism as yet. It was about being intemperate, not being able to control yourself. Anyway, so I was working on that song this time, and now I'm hopping into the chat. Shahin Shah on YouTube says, "You seem joyful today." I did see, Shahin Shah, that you had commented on an impromptu live stream I did yesterday, where you were surprised by the amount of feelings I had regarding a movie trailer I saw on YouTube, which inspired that live stream. That live stream is only available on YouTube because I was on YouTube at the time, and they have this now little, I'll show you real quick. They have this doohickey here where you say create a video or post. And so if I were to click that, I would be able to live stream directly through YouTube. That's a new feature that they have on there. And I did that yesterday in response to seeing the trailer for The House with the Clock in Its Walls, which I'm really excited about because The House with the Clock in Its Wall is based on a book by John Bellairs, and I love John Bellairs books. Oh my god, I cannot read Stephen King, I cannot watch anything scary, but I am so excited for that. I was in tears, I was on and off crying and confused, and I'm not entirely sure I agree with the casting. I've always, thought of Mrs. Zimmerman, who is being played by Cate Blanchett. You can tell because she's wearing purple. I always imagined her as being frumpier, and her clothes were always, described as being shapeless. And I always saw Lewis's Uncle Barneveld, who's going to be played by Jack Black, or is played by Jack Black. I always saw him as being taller and a little more well-kempt. Like, he's a silly, eclectic guy, but everything he does seems perfectly natural to him. He's not really aware of his eclecticness. Whereas Jack Black is keenly aware of how silly he looks in a situation. Even when he's like giving a little nod, it's like, oh, we're perfectly safe here. It's like, yeah, it's safe as long as he's fed. So I am going to reread the book. Just to make sure, because it might just be that my memory is playing tricks on me. But I was flipping through this right here. What I have, The House with the Clock in Its Walls is the first of a series of 3 books known as the House with the Clock in Its Wall series. And that little trifecta is the first set of books that center on the character of Louis Barneveld and his adventures moving in with his Uncle Jonathan, who spends a lot of his time with his best friend, Mrs. Zimmerman. And then through them, he also meets Rose Rita. And actually, the third book of the original 3 stories, that third one doesn't center on Louis at all. It centers on Rose Rita, which is part of the reason I take issue with what's going on with the Wikipedia page for John Bellairs writing right now, because it lists series based off the little boy that it follows, the young boy that it follows. It doesn't, and that I think is rude to Rose Rita. I feel like that page ought to be altered so that I want Rose Rita to be better represented because she is the focus of the book. She's just Louis Barneveld's friend, which is, Louis here is pictured with Bertie, who is the son of the housekeeper of his cousin's house in England. It's a manor house, those kinds of things. Such a good book. Anywho, so, and actually, while this adventure is taking place, there is another book that centers on Rose Rita that's taking place at the same time, but also not at the same time because there's time travel involved, where in this book, Louis and his Uncle Jonathan are in England, battling the Witchfinder, and that's mostly Louis and his friend Bertie doing the battling. And then you have the other book, look at that artwork, by the way, Edward Gorey. come on, come on. The book that is the adventure that's supposed to be happening at the same time is The Ghost in the Mirror, and Rose Rita and Mrs. Zimmerman travel back in time to meet Mrs. Zimmerman's ancestors. So this guy, Lewis, in this book is fighting an ancient foe of his ancestors, and then Mrs. Zimmerman takes Rosarita to handle things with her own ancestors, and it's really great. But like the third book of the House with the Clock in Its Wall trilogy, those two books are listed as Louis Barnevelt stories rather than Rosarita it's a long word that began with the letter P. It's a very New England kind of a name. The English who moved to New England kind of name. It's not listed as, they're not listed as being Rosarita stories, and I think they should be. Just because we were introduced to Rosarita through Lewis does not mean those books do not belong to her. We are following her. She is the protagonist of those books. So I take issue with that little figglediness going on with the Wikipedia page right now. I should just become a Wikipedia editor and change it myself. Is really what that comes down to. But in order to do that properly, I'm going to have to read all of John Miller's books. But I mean, suffer for your art, I guess. Stuff and things. Anyway, very good stuff. It's basically Stephen King for people who cannot stomach Stephen King, who cannot take that level of horror and gore, and who need to know that it's going to be okay, that by the end of the book, they're going to know how to defeat the villain. That way, when they go to sleep at night, if the villain comes to their dreams, they can defeat them in their dreams. And that's what I need. And that's what John Bellairs always delivers. And by extension, Brad Strickland, who, as a fan of John Bellairs, completed some of his incomplete manuscripts, including this book, and The Ghost in the Mirror, I believe, when John Bellairs died, and people just wanted the stories to be finished. So now chat on Twitch. Let's see what comments we got going on here. We got Zagora Maroke GS. Hi, your webcam is out of sync with the audio. Okay. Could I ask what you are writing, Pete? Is it a poem or a song? It's both a poem and a song. In terms of the audio, and this is... Okay. In terms of the audio, what you do is you come down here to settings, you go to report playback issue, select audio and video aren't synced, and then you submit that. Now, I don't know if that's actually what's going on my end, so I'm going to hit play now, unmute my computer, and take a look. That's actually what's going on my end, so I'm going to hit play now, unmute my computer, and take a look. Okay, so for my end, it's synced. So what you would want to do is, again, report playback issue, select audio and video aren't synced, then hit submit, then maybe hit refresh. So now in response to the poem/song that I'm writing about the red shoes, I can talk about that in a little more detail now. So, and actually, I don't know whether or not you're one of the people live streaming, so I'm going to whisper this to you real quick on Twitch. Hey, thanks for the questions. So you know, I respond to all questions and comments. Spell questions correctly, Rose. All questions and comments from both YouTube and Twitch, feel free to hit refresh while I'm doing this because you're not going to miss anything super important. Comments from both YouTube and Twitch during the wrap-up chat at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time each day. You can find the archive to my morning writings with their end chats here. http://bit.ly/Rose, capital R Rose, capital J, Music, which is the short link I made for my YouTube page. Okay, so now talking about what I was working on today, the song I got going. So I have a website called thegoldengooseeggs.com. Every 20 days, I put out an article, usually looking at the archetypal relevance of a story of old, whether it's well-known or obscure, and I relate it to today. I basically write articles about how fairy tales are still relevant, one story at a time. Then 10 days after each article is posted, I post, of late, I have been posting boons to each article, something that elaborates on what was going on in those articles a little more and makes them more relevant. So with my last article, The Red Shoes, I broke down how I believe Hans Christian Andersen was intentionally writing about alcoholism, though they would not have used that word at the time. It would have been very much from the vein of the temperance movement, which was 25 years going and still strong, and setting the foundation for what we here in the States would experience as prohibition. And so in the story, which I believe is about alcoholism, and that article will be published on the 30th if you want to check out thegoldengooseeggs.com. In the story, the executioner who chops off her feet so that she can stop dancing, in addition to giving her wooden shoes and wooden crutches so that she can get around physically, he teaches her the psalm that the penitent would sing, that a sinner who no longer wants to sin would sing to help make themselves stronger. So in AA today, we are very familiar with the Serenity Prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It was originally written as just a simple 3-part sentence, then altered to look like 3 verse lines, and has been elaborated on to look like longer poems many times over the years. So I'm using that 3-part structure to break up the 3 main parts of the poem that I'm writing, which I've decided to do as my own sort of hymn that the penitent sings, but it's more of a carol, more of a sort of something a little bit more upbeat. Anywho, so the structuring of this is actually based on another project that I have, which I showed a short while ago, called Seconds, where I write a line of verse for every second in a 12-hour period. I didn't show this a little while ago. I showed this while I was brainstorming, getting my hair into gear to write this. So Seconds, a line of fairy tale verse for every second till the stroke of midnight, which comes to 43,200 lines of verse. And then that's broken up. You see here it says volume 1. That is because the minute hand crosses the hour hand on a clock face 11 times over the course of 12 hours. What I've highlighted there is the equation for finding those crossings. And so those crossings are the end lines for each volume of the collection. Then the end line for each poem is this end line here, the minute hand crossing the hand, but also the 59 times each hour, or 708 times over 12 hours, that the second hand crosses the minute hand, and also the 719 times that the second hand crosses the hour hand over the course of 12 hours. Now, all these different crossings mean that each poem is going to have a different length, anywhere from 1 line of verse to 60 lines of verse. And I say here that it's a line of fairy tale verse, because what I do is, I already did months and months ago the calculations for every single crossing. Yeah, every single crossing of the minute hand and the hour hand, the second hand and the minute hand, and the second hand and the hour hand over the course of 12 hours. All those calculations, I did them because I'm a dork. And so now where I'm at in that writing is where I go through poem by poem, and I've calculated out how many lines each poem is as a result of the end lines calculated. And I go through poem by poem and go through story by story in the table of contents, basically, through the book. So volume 1 goes straight through the Brothers Grimm, and then there's 210 stories here, but there's an average 130 poems to each volume because of the way that the hands of the clock cross each other. There's an average of 130 poems. There's 210 stories in this book. So the first 130 are in volume 1, and the remaining 80, or rather the remaining 81. Is there 210 or 211? Oh, right, because there's actually, in volume 1, that has 129 poems. So the first 129 poems are in volume 1. The first 129 stories are in volume 1. The remaining 81 stories are in volume 2. And then followed by the Grimms, I'm going to Hans Christian Andersen's Story by Story, which has about 250 stories in here. And so I have not written all of the stories through Grimm's into poems yet, and I've not yet gone through any stories of Hans Christian Andersen, except that I'm jumping in at the Red Shoes. So I went through and I, next to all the calculations that I did, wrote the stories for the poems that are coming up, and calculating them out so I could make sure that I know which poem is going to be for the Red Shoes. And so, in terms of crossover, I'm writing the poem that will fit into here. Not fit into here, fit into, it'll fit into here. And then that story fitting into there will have, will be a poem of, let me show you. So I found out where it fits in the Seconds project, and it will be 54 lines long. That's divisible by 9. 9 and 6, also divisible by 3. So I decided to split that into three sections based on the Serenity poem. Each section then has a stanza which relates to the archetypal analysis performed by Clarissa Pinkola Estes in her book Women Who Run with the Wolves. So her analysis of this is where I'm getting more of what's going on in each stanza of the book, of the poem, I mean. And then each stanza will have 6 lines. So 3 times 3 times 6 makes 54. Now, something that I'm doing for the entire collection of poetry is that I'm doing 5 syllables per line. And that's because the phrase, once upon a time, has 5 syllables in it. That's the entire reason I decided to do 5 syllables to a line. It's also quite a challenge, and it makes for some interesting poems and some interesting songs as I use this thing called enjambment. For those who don't know, enjambment is when the line of a poem goes from, or the sentence of a poem, it doesn't end on, it's not an end line thing. So the word ends at the end of the line, obviously. But instead of having a period here or a piece of punctuation, the phrase follows into the next line. So every lead followed and every hoop leapt. That's one phrase. It is what it is. That's an end line phrase, you could say, because you can put a period right there. Boom. And then you have every lead followed and every hoop leapt. Like that can be a phrase, those two lines. So that's what so I use enjambment in a lot of the poems, but in this one I'm going more for phrases that are that sit very clearly in end line formation. End line, the line of verse, the sentence within the verse ends on the line of verse. Enjambment, the sentence continues through one or more lines of verse. So that's what I'm working on. You see here the serenity structure: acceptance, courage, wisdom, and then here you have handmade red shoes, purchased red shoes, the danse macabre or death, the three elements of the executioner, returning to the handmade life, healing in that return, and the dance of life, which will ultimately land on the danse macabre, but will also be about celebrating what's going on now. So that's how I'm structuring this poem, this song. And the song you may have heard come off of my phone just a second ago is the timer letting me know that I'm reaching, the hard end to the morning live stream that I do every day. So I'm going to go ahead and get myself situated to wrap up here. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm Roaster Music, your live stream writing accountability partner. I'm here every morning from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 2 hours of live stream writing accountability, wherein you can read along with me as I work on whatever I happen to be working on, or just have me in the background as white noise, as though we were in a digital shared workspace while you do. At the end of each 2-hour writing jam session that I share virtually over here, after each of those 2 hours, there is what we have just done now, which is our Share What You Did wrap-up chat. You can share with me what you did. You can share what you thought of what I was writing as I was writing it. Ask questions about my process, your process, the creative or writing process in general, and just all around engage in dialogue. And what I do is I briefly summarize what I did in case you weren't reading along, and then I respond to every single comment made on both YouTube and on Twitch while the live streaming was occurring. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good journey, my friends. Also, Mr. Rogers is still currently streaming. Do go check that out, because it's a beautiful... Whoa. Not beauter. Beauter's not a word. Could be, but it's not right now. Oh, it's a neighborly day in this beauty wood. Good journey, my friends.